Lowe's knows how to help you get the most out of your store run. That's why members save more with My Lowe's Rewards. Earn points towards My Lowe's money on eligible purchases. Get access to member-only deals and free member gifts. Plus, unlock free standard shipping when you reach Silver Key status. So what are you waiting for? Join for free today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Today, we'll hear from Mary about her family's first Disney World trip. That's coming up on this episode 449 of WDW Prep To Go. Hello and welcome to WDW Prep To Go, where we talk strategy and ideas for people planning their Disney World trips, and we have lots and lots of trip reports. I am your host, Shannon Albert from WDWPrepSchool.com. Thank you for being here for episode 449. Today is another podcast trip report, this time with Mary. And if you've been around a long time, like more than 10 years, you might remember that these trip reports were focused on first-timers in the early days, and we don't have that so often anymore. But Mary's family, this was their first trip, and that is always fun to kind of hear it through their vantage point and see how their experiences compare to everyone else's, and how the planning worked out and that kind of stuff. So I will have those conversations in just a second. As always, a reminder to follow on social media. And if you want to be a podcast guest like Mary, the only way to do that is by using the SpeakPipe information in the show notes of every podcast episode. Leave a voicemail and with basic information about your trip, maybe 1 to 2 minutes long. And if it works out on our calendar, then a member of my team will reach out to you to get it scheduled. The person who schedules that on my team does recommend submitting that, as soon as possible. And then usually they're booked about a couple months ahead, sometimes as soon as a month ahead, depending on how the calendar looks. But go ahead and submit that. And if it works out, we will get in touch with you. So I think that is it for now. Let's hear from Mary about her recent Disney World trip. Welcome to podcast, Mary.
Thank you, Shannon. I'm so happy to be here.
We're talking on Friday, January 31st, and I understand you have a trip coming up hours away.
Yes. We are headed to Disney World. We are leaving this afternoon. We're going to pick up my boys from school, and we're going to drive halfway and then finish up the rest of our trip tomorrow.
And when do you get home?
We will be getting home on, hold on, let me check my notes, on Saturday, the 8th of February.
Okay. And you said that you are driving and you're making it a two-part thing. So where are you driving from?
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Okay. From Chapel Hill. How many hours will you expect to drive today?
It's about 10 hours in total. So we're expecting to do about 5 tonight. We're going to stay in Savannah overnight, and then we'll have about 5 hours tomorrow.
Okay. 5 hours. That's not bad.
No. And my kids, we drive a lot. We do a lot of road trips. They're really good in the car. So
they're used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're in that kind of in between distance where it's like we could drive, we could fly.
Yeah. We thought about flying, but the flights were so expensive, and it's a really straightforward drive from where we are. So we just thought we'd drive.
Yeah. And you've mentioned some family members. So who all is going?
Myself, my husband, and my 2 boys. We have Sawyer, who is 10, and my younger one, Fitzgerald, who just turned 7.
Okay. 7 and 10-year-old. And this is not your first trip?
It's not my first trip, and it's not my husband's, but it will be the first for my boys.
Okay. So does that mean you and your husband haven't been in a long time?
Yes, I haven't been in 20 years, and he hasn't been in about 15.
So it's the first trip for the family, safe to say.
Yes.
Okay. You also mentioned you've been a podcast listener for a long time. So how long have you been planning this trip?
We've been planning it. Well, if you talk to my husband, Sam, he has been planning this since the day our oldest was born.
Aww.
And my husband grew up going to Disney. He lived in Florida for a long time. So they were like a Disney family and went a lot. But we've been planning this trip for about 3 years. My husband graduated from nurse anesthesia school in the fall. And that's a very long, demanding program. And so this is our big celebration that he's graduated. And yeah.
It's okay. Good. And your kids are at an age where they're at good ages, if you ask me, because they don't have to nap, they don't have all of that, but they're also not too big to be too cool for the stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of a sweet spot, probably. Let's start talking through your plans then. So we know that you're driving today to Savannah, and then tomorrow, February 1st, you're completing the drive and arriving to Disney World. Where are you staying?
We are staying at the Wilderness Lodge.
Okay. Staying at Wilderness Lodge. And I forgot to ask you, how did you decide to travel this time of year?
We wanted to travel during a lower crowd time. My oldest he's neurodiverse and has a lot of sensory issues and anxiety. So it was important for us to, at least for this first trip, to kind of go when the crowds might be a little lower. And my husband doesn't like heat. So we figured we'd get nicer weather during this time of year. And the boys, we are pulling them out of school, but they have a day off of school during the week we're out, so they're not missing a full week.
And I'm looking at the forecast, and it's such whiplash because it was just very cold and rainy. And during your trip, highs of 82.
I know.
Which is beautiful, but just very different than what it has been. So this is why we tell people check the weather while you're packing, because 30 and 80 are very different.
Yes. Yeah. I'm really happy we're not getting the cold. I was looking at the weather the past couple of weeks. So I'm like, oh no, please don't be cold. No.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. I heard it was pretty miserable, especially with the rain. But you're going to have a different situation with the ability to wear shorts if you want. But okay, you're traveling during a lower crowd time and nicer weather. And that's why you chose this. Plus your kids are out for a day. So got it. So we are on Saturday, tomorrow, you're arriving at Wilderness Lodge. And then what do you plan to do?
We'll probably get there around early afternoon, like around 1 or 2. And if we can do early check-in, that'll be great. But if we can't, we'll probably just like walk around the resort and explore. I have a feeling my kids are really going to enjoy the monorail. We were in New York over New Year's for a wedding, and they loved the subway. So we might, if we have time, we just might like take them on a monorail ride. And then we have a 6:55 reservation at Storybook Dining at Artist Point.
Dining where you are makes sense.
Yeah. And my boys actually, they like Snow White. They think the dwarves are really funny. And I'm surrounded by boys, so I get like my little princess moment. So,
yeah, that's a fun combo. So speaking of that, what are your boys' primary things? Like, are they indie characters? Are they most looking forward to the rides?
They're looking forward to the rides. I'm not sure about characters. We asked them a few months ago about characters, and they didn't seem interested. But earlier this week, we kind of reviewed some things like what's a priority for you boys, and I think characters are. So we'll get a gauge on Saturday evening of how they do with characters and whether, my husband and I are trying to be pretty flexible because this is their first time at Disney. It's our first time at Disney as a family. We don't really know how we do Disney. So we're trying to be open-minded.
Yeah. And it's kind of a weird concept if you've not been, it's like, do you want to meet this grown-sized, character from a movie? I don't know. Yeah. But once you're there, sometimes it just hits different than you expect. Yeah. So hopefully the character meal will be a nice introduction for them. Yeah. Okay. So anything else on Saturday?
No, we'll probably just go to get our park bags ready, unpack, go to bed early.
Okay. Then Sunday, February 2nd.
We are going to Magic Kingdom that day. And we are planning to do early entry. We are early risers in our family. And we booked lightning lanes for that day. We also, my oldest son qualified for a DAS.
Okay.
So we'll have that too.
Yeah. I'm going to note that because that will come into play. All right. So what are your priorities in your Magic Kingdom time then?
We have a 9:35 Dumbo Lightning Lane. We'll probably also prioritize the Barnstormer that morning to see, because we've also, like, my boys have never been to any sort of like theme park, amusement park. So we don't know how they do on rides. So we might rope drop Barnstormer and see how they do on that one. And then I think our plan is to kind of go through Fantasyland that morning. And then we have a 12:05 lunch reservation at the Grand Floridian Café. And then we plan to make our way back to the park after that. And we have a 150 Jungle Cruise and a 250 Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay. All right. And how long do you think you'll probably stay?
Our plan is to stay till fireworks. We'll see what happens. Again, trying to be flexible. But I do think we're going to try to stay through fireworks that night.
Okay. All right. So then that takes us to Monday, February 3rd, I guess.
Yeah. And Monday, February 3rd, we are going to Epcot. We didn't book multi-pass for that day because we have the DAS, and a lot of rides are closed right now. So we kind of thought between the DAS and early entry, we'd be able to get on the rides we want to go on. We did book a Guardians Lightning Lane at 11:05. And we don't have dining reservations at Epcot. There is so much food that we want to try. We just thought we'd kind of snack our way around the park that day. And my boys are like, we've been watching like YouTube videos on the parks. And so they've seen some of the snacks and they're excited to try some of the things there.
It's such a weird balance of how much food there is at Epcot versus the other parks, you know, because pretty much every country has a restaurant, and then there's usually an Epcot festival going on, and then there's quick service places everywhere, and then you get to other parks and it's like, there's a few options.
Yeah, there's so many options at Epcot. It was hard to decide, so we just thought, well, we'll have a little bit of everything.
There's a ton of options for sure.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the day before rope dropping Barnstormer, and on this day doing Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's just a funny juxtaposition. So I hope your kids love the roller coasters.
Yeah. Yeah. And, if they end up, changing their minds that day, it's fine. It's fine. My husband and I will do rider switch or something.
Yeah. It is hard to guess though. If you've not been, you're like, well, do I buy this? Do I not buy this? But if they do like it, then you certainly want to have the lightning lane to make it, possible. But it's just, who knows?
Yeah. They both love Marvel and they love Guardians of the Galaxy. The first movie, they've both seen it. They think it's hysterical. So they're really excited to go on that one. And this is a little sidebar, but the one ride, because we've shown that with my oldest having like anxiety and stuff, we've also shown them all the ride videos. And the only one they're both nervous about is Tron. All the other ones they're pretty excited to go on.
Is Tron because like the ride vehicle and it looks fast and stuff?
I think so, yeah, because it looks fast. The ride vehicles are different. We were talking with my oldest last night, and he's like, do I get to sit next to you? Like he wants to make sure one of us is near him. And we were like, well, yeah, we can. Well, I think, we should be able to sit side by side. And yeah,
you can. I'm curious how they like it. But I mean, Guardians is a great ride. It's just going to be a major step up from Barnstormer the day before.
Yeah. I hear ya. Yeah. All right.
Okay. And then you're going to snack around the park for your food.
Around the park. Yeah.
What else on your Epcot day?
Nothing else planned. We do want to make sure we ride Frozen and Ratatouille.
Anything else on Monday?
No, that's all.
Okay. Tuesday, February 4th.
That is a non-park day. I'm hesitant to call it a rest day. We have a 9:25 a.m. Topolino's breakfast.
And you have a car, so you'll be driving there probably,
yes,
right?
so we'll be driving there. And then after breakfast, depending on how long it takes, we either might go back to the hotel and relax for a little bit, or we might go straight to Disney Springs. We have 1 p.m. and 1:30 p.m. reservations at the Lego store to do the mini figures. My boys are huge Lego fans. This is one of the things they're most excited about our whole trip. So
Really?
yeah.
That's funny. May I suggest a spin on the Skyliner when you're there?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's a ride, and it's kind of hard to get to if you're not staying on the Skyliner.
Okay.
So if you want to kill time, you might like that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so you're in Disney Springs for the minifigs.
Yeah, and our plan is to walk around Disney Springs, take the boys to some of the shops that they might enjoy. We'll see if mom and dad get an opportunity to go to anywhere we want to go, but I'm keeping my expectations low. And then we have a 4 p.m. dining reservation at Homecoming. So we'll have an early dinner. And then we figured we'd go to bed. Like we might, if the boys want to stay in Disney Springs after dinner, we'll stay for a little bit. But again, plan is to go to bed early.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That'll be a nice change up from after 2 big park days.
Yeah, that's what we figured.
And then Wednesday, February 5th.
We are going to Animal Kingdom that day. And this we did an individual lightning lane, but we didn't book multi-pass for this day. We have an 8 a.m. flight of passage. And then we really want to do the safari. We'll probably rope drop the Navi River ride. And we really want to do the Lion King show. But we figured between DAS and, again, like there's not like a ton of rides at Animal Kingdom, we'd be fine. We figured this for Epcot too. Like our feeling is the boys will enjoy just like walking around and exploring. And there's so much to explore in Epcot and Animal Kingdom. Like they want to see the animals and stuff. So it wasn't, I don't know that like while they want to go on rides, that rides are like the number one priority in either of those parks.
There's certainly lots to see at Animal Kingdom. And this time of year, it's so much more pleasant than in the middle of summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we'll probably do some snacks and quick services in Animal Kingdom. My husband really wants to go to Satuli Canteen. But we had a hard time in Animal Kingdom finding a sit down that would there was a lot of food for me and my husband that we were excited to eat in Animal Kingdom, but those are not the same places my boys would eat. They're a little fussy. So we have a 5:45 p.m. dinner reservation at Sanaa. They're fussy eaters, but they actually really like curries. I make a lot of curries at home, and we figured just the ambiance there, they would really like seeing the animals while they eat dinner. And
yeah, exactly. And I'm looking up sunset time in Orlando, February 5th, out of curiosity, 6:09. So it'll still, when you get there, it'll still be light until probably about 6:40. So that's pretty good timing.
Yeah, we tried to time it that way. We actually had a lot of good luck with dining reservations for this trip. Like it really wasn't hard to get what we wanted around the times we were hoping for.
Good. I was going to ask you about that. And what about lightning lanes?
The lightning lanes weren't that hard either. I'll be honest. My husband ended up doing the lightning lanes, so I had to work that morning, but he didn't seem to have a hard time. And he's been tinkering with them ever since he booked them and like slightly adjusting the times to get things like closer together. So I don't really think it was that difficult.
Okay, good. And so far it looks like you've gotten them for just a couple days. So you didn't have to go through, a whole week of lightning lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so 5:45 at Sanaa, and then that's that, right?
Yep. We'll go back to the hotel again, probably aiming for an earlier bedtime. My boys are early risers, but not really like night owls. So grabbing those early bedtimes when we can, I think will be good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to burn the candle at both ends, You kind of have to pick what you're going to do.
Right.
Thursday, February 6th.
That's our Hollywood Studios day. And we have a 9:15. We did get lightning lanes for Hollywood Studios. We also have Standby Skipper for the week. So we have a 9:15 Rise of the Resistance, a 9:35 Toy Story Mania, and a 10:15 Slinky Dog Dash, and an 11:05 Tower of Terror. So we have a lot for that day, a lot
Those
for
are
that
good
morning.
ones.
Yeah. I was impressed with my husband's Hollywood Studios reservations.
Yep.
In all honesty, Hollywood Studios, we had a hard time figuring there weren't any restaurants that really captivate our imagination or taste buds there. So we are planning at 5:45 p.m. to take the Skyliner back to Topolino's for dinner.
Okay, so that'll be an opportunity to be on the Skyliner.
Yeah.
If you're on it the other day, you'll be on it this day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Topolino's is good for breakfast and dinner, so that's nice.
Yeah. And then we may go back to the park for Fantasmic. I saw Fantasmic a long time ago and I loved it. And I think my boys would really like it, but we're trying to be flexible. So like if they're really tired, we may just go back to the hotel after dinner.
Okay. And then Friday, February 7th, are you leaving to drive that day or is this another day at Disney World?
It's our last park day. We're going back to Magic Kingdom.
Okay.
And we have a 9 a.m. buzz. 9:55 a.m. Tron. My husband really wants to go on that one. He's very excited. So again, like if we end up having to eat that because the boys change their minds, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then an 11:35 Haunted Mansion and a 12:50 Tiana's. I'm really excited about Tiana's. Oh. And then we have a 5:30 dinner at Steakhouse 71.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, flexible. We might call it a day after our dinner, or we might go back to the park and do a few more rides. If the boys want to do the fireworks again, we're willing to do that, but we're just going to play it by ear.
All right.
Yeah.
And then Saturday, February 8th, you are driving home.
Yep. That's our departure day. And we'll be driving home all in one day.
Okay. You're not breaking up this part of it.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, this sounds like really structured trip. We got a little non-park day in the middle, 2 days at Magic Kingdom, 1 day at the other parks. I'm curious to see which park you guys end up liking the most.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I am curious. I think it is sometimes different than you expect. For instance, like Hollywood Studios, I feel like some people love it and some people are like, I couldn't find things to do there. It's really kind of polarizing, but you just never know until you're there.
Yeah. My feeling based off of, knowing my boys is Animal Kingdom might be the favorite for them, but we'll see. It could end up being Hollywood Studios. It could end up being Epcot. I really don't know.
Yes, you don't, but I hope you guys have a great time and I'll talk to you when you get back in a week and a half or so.
All right. That sounds great.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Tired of restless nights? At Leesa, they know good sleep is essential for mental, physical, and emotional health. From memory foam mattresses to hybrids that keep you cool all night long, Leesa's mattresses offer exceptional comfort and support with free delivery and 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your home. Go to leesa.com today and get 20% off all mattresses and 2 free pillows. That's LEESA.com and use code IHEART for an extra $50 off your purchase. Remember, no matter who you are, there's a Leesa just for you.
With the best all-inclusive vacation deals to Mexico and the Caribbean, booking your getaway with Cheap Caribbean Vacations means you have more freedom to do your deal. Whether you want to enjoy snorkeling, endless margaritas, and more, or simply soak up the sun and sand in a tropical paradise, Cheap Caribbean Vacations has your deal for that. Plan and book the exact way you want at exactly the right price for you by using our exclusive Budget Beach Finder. Or find a featured all-inclusive package to Iberostar Hotel and Resorts in Jamaica and do your deal at cheapcaribbean.com.
Welcome back from your trip, Mary.
Thank you, Shannon.
We're talking on Saturday, February 15th, so you've been back a week. How are you doing now, and how did your trip go overall?
We are good. Our trip was so magical. It far exceeded my expectations. It was wonderful.
Good. Well, I cannot wait to hear it. Let's start at the beginning. A good place to start. Friday, January 31st, you were starting off by driving to Savannah.
We picked up our kids from school. We went home really quickly and got the kids into PJs, dropped off their backpacks and stuff we didn't need. And then we left. We had a really smooth drive to Savannah. We got there around 9 p.m. and we just went to bed. But the next morning, February 1st, I told you we're an early family. We were all up around 5:45.
Family on a Saturday.
Yes. And we left the hotel in Savannah around 7 a.m. We got some breakfast on the road. Again, a really smooth, easy drive. We got into Orlando around 12:30, and we arranged an Instacart pickup from a Publix. I don't remember exactly where the location was, but somewhere in Orlando, not too far from our hotel. And then at around 12:45, we checked into the Wilderness Lodge, and that was just magical. The minute we walked in, my boys were like, "Oh, wow, this is so cool." And we were greeted, and they were like, "Welcome home." And the cast member who greeted us, her name was Alexa, I believe. And she was just so kind, and she took her time with us when we were checking in and took the time to show us the map of the resort and point out the activities that were going on. And she gave the boys first time visit buttons. And I think I mentioned on the pre-trip, this was a trip to celebrate my husband's graduation from nurse anesthesia school. So he got a button that said, "I graduated," I'm celebrating my graduation. And then we gave our bags to Bell Services because our room wasn't ready yet. And around 1:25, we headed over to Geyser Point, the pool bar over there, for a late lunch. And we didn't have to wait too long, just 5 minutes for a table. And that was very yummy. My husband and I split a bison burger there, and that was very good and not too heavy. And that was one of our more relaxed meals of the trip. Didn't feel rushed, and the view was beautiful.
I'm surprised it was only a 5-minute wait during lunchtime on a Saturday. That's really good.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of had a pattern of things not really feeling very busy there. So yeah, I think that was reflected that day.
Geyser's pretty popular, so I would expect a bit of a wait, but glad you didn't.
Yeah.
And your room wasn't ready at this point.
Right. Right.
Okay.
It wasn't ready. So, and after Geyser Point, I think we walked around a little bit and explored the little like courtyard out there by the pool and by Geyser Point. And around 2:30, our room was ready. And so we unpacked and got settled in the room. And while I received the bags from Bell Services upstairs in our room, oh, and we had a beautiful room. We were on the 5th floor overlooking that courtyard. I was just talking about, what's it called? Copper Creek.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a beautiful view. It was so pretty. So I received the bags from Bell Services. And then meanwhile, my husband and the boys were setting up valeting the car. That was like a little treat my husband wanted to do for himself. And the valet, Helian, gave the boys a card to the arcade.
Nice.
At the hotel. And that was really special. And the boys were so excited. And we just got cleaned up, got the room ready, set up our food and our snacks, and unpacked our clothes. And around, I didn't note the time here, but around 6:15 or so, we went down to the arcade. The boys were and we played in the arcade for a little while. And then at 6:45 p.m., we headed over to Artist Point for our 6:55 p.m. reservation. We were seated immediately. That was really nice. I will say this was one of our least favorite meals of the trip.
Mm-hmm.
I had heard character meals are loud. This was really... And it also felt very rushed. And the food, we found the food pretty heavy and rich. And they just like kept it coming. But the characters were really cute. We had a really cute interaction with Grumpy, and the boys loved that. And they loved Dopey, and the Queen was fun. But it was a little, my oldest son is neurodiverse, and that meal was a lot for him. He just was a little agitated the whole time. But I do think it's really cute if somebody has a Snow White lover in the family.
And it's convenient that it was at your hotel, which is, not much of a commute to and from, but we have very inconsistent experiences there.
Yeah. I had heard that it was really good. I think it was a little overhyped. Mm-hmm. Perhaps my expectations were a little higher, but yeah, it wasn't our favorite.
I get it, but you confirmed it. I'm sorry that you had that experience, but now other people can learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't a terrible experience. Just like based off of all of our dining, it was.
It sounds like there are going to be better ones to come.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then we just went back upstairs after dinner and got ready for bed and got our park bags ready and went to bed early that night. It was really cute. At the end of the day, my oldest Sawyer said, "I can't believe we're having such a great time and we haven't even done any rides yet."
Oh, and he's the one that's neurodivergent, right? So the meal was difficult, but he's still having a good time.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. So then let's talk about the park time, because the next day was Sunday, February 2nd, and you were headed to Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, so again, we were up around 5:45 in the morning. We got ready and had breakfast in the hotel room. That's what we did every day. We just brought some of our own breakfast items and ate in the hotel. At 7:30, we headed down to the boat for Magic Kingdom. I had read that the boat from Wilderness Lodge can have a pretty long wait, especially in the morning. There was no line.
None.
There was no line. So
what kind of magic is this?
I know. And at 7:41, the boat departed. And at 25, I noted they let people into Fantasyland. So we checked into Magic Kingdom and got all tapped in and got in the line for Fantasyland for early entry. At 8:30, we got in line for Winnie the Pooh. That was a walk-on. And while we were waiting for Winnie the Pooh, My husband booked us a DAS for Peter Pan with a 9 a.m. return time. After Pooh, my husband and boys got in line for the teacups. I did not go on the teacups. I have issues with motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
And I did wear a scope patch for the trip. And that's actually going to come into play later. But I have such bad memories of the teacups that I just didn't want to test that.
Listen, if you have motion sickness, that's one to avoid.
Yeah, definitely. But my boys loved it. At 8:42, they were off the teacups. That was also a walk-on at that point. And at 9:48, we got in line for the Barnstormer. That was a posted wait of 8 minutes. We got on 4 minutes later. My oldest son, Sawyer, loved the Barnstormer. We played with a little rating system for the ride. So actually, when I was young and my family took us to Disney, my mom used to bring a journal, and after each ride or restaurant or show, she would get like our unfiltered commentary on the ride. And like as a grown-up, it's really funny to read those. So we kind of tried a similar thing with the boys, but we had them rate from 1 to 3. So Sawyer rated that a 3 out of 3. My younger one thought it was okay. He said he didn't like that it went fast. And then at 9:04, we headed over to Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm.
The wait didn't seem that long for that either. Even I wasn't very good at noting the regular standby times, but it wasn't a long standby line over at Peter Pan at that point. At 9:11, we were off Peter Pan, and then we headed over to Small World, which was a walk-on. At 9:29, we were off Small World. And somewhere in there, after that, my husband booked a DAS for Seven Dwarves Mine Train, and that was around 9:40, and the return time was 10:30 a.m. And we had a lightning lane for Dumbo at 9:35. We checked into that at 9:42. At 9:54, we were on the ride.
So you're within the first hour and a half of like going on rides, and you've already been to, I can't count them, but it seems like there's 6 or so.
Yeah.
And almost no wait.
Yeah. It really didn't seem busy at all that morning. Next, we went on the carousel.
Really not.
There was no line.
Yeah. Fantasyland is almost complete.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, carousel was like a 5-minute wait. And then this was cute. The stepsisters were out that morning by the carousel, and they were talking to people. They were very funny. Mm-hmm. We did learn the previous night, even though storybook dining wasn't our favorite, I do think it's good we started with that and learned how our boys do with characters. Mm-hmm. They liked the furry characters. They did not like face characters. So they didn't want to talk to the stepsisters, but they did have fun. Like they liked seeing the characters out. That was fun for them to just like see the characters out, but the face characters they didn't want to talk to.
It was one of the things in like 2020, 21 that I liked about the characters being kind of just out and about. It was like you can kind of observe them. So even if you don't want to interact, you can at least see them, and that's fun. And I wish there was more of that. Yeah, I agree. That it would have been fun to see that at some of the other parks. Yeah. But I'm glad you have the stepsisters because they're funny.
They're very funny. I love them. They were great. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then we got off the carousel and a little break. A little pattern we found with the DAS while waiting for return times. If there wasn't something, it just was a good time to like go to the bathroom, put on more sunscreen, make the kids drink some water.
Yeah, and I will tell you, this is a reason I'm not a fan of the touring plans that have times. Like be here at 8:24, be here at 8:41. Because if you get off path and it feels very kind of overwhelming, I think it's better to kind of memorize generally when's the best time to visit. Because if you want to take a break, you need to go to the bathroom. It's like you need flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Oh, where am I? I'm looking at my notes.
I think you're probably about to ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train.
Yes. Okay. We scanned into Mine Train at 10:41. We were off. Sawyer loved this. He rated that a 4 out of 3. I'm not going to share all the ratings, but they get funny later.
But I'm concerned about your child who thought Barnstormer was too intense. How they feel about more intense rides.
Yeah. Well, we have a journey with that child too. He also Fitz, my younger one, who was like, he didn't hate Barnstormer. He just was like, oh, it was a little fast. Like at this point in the trip, he was like, dark rides are really like my speed. Mine Train, he was also like, oh, that's okay. I'd go on it again because Sawyer wants to, but it's not my favorite.
That's sweet though.
And then we went to Little Mermaid. And I think Standby Skipper had booked us a lightning lane for Little Mermaid. That was around 10:45. At 10:56, we were off of Little Mermaid. So we had like done Fantasyland
in 2.5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was with a break.
Yeah. And we weren't running. We felt very relaxed. We didn't feel like we had to rush anywhere. Yeah. I was so surprised with the pace we were able to take everything and how much we got done. So at 11 a.m., we headed out of the park for lunch. We took the monorail to the Grand Floridian for our lunch reservation at the Grand Floridian Café. We checked in at around 11:37-ish for our 12:05 lunch. Another theme of our trip is we had read to allow a lot of time for getting to different places, and it generally didn't take that long to get from place to place. And again, I don't know if that's reflective of like it didn't really seem that busy.
Yeah, I think the long commute times are really representative of if you have to go resort to resort. You know what I mean? So if you're at Wilderness Lodge and you want to go to Riviera, which I know you do at some point in this trip, end up at Riviera a couple times, that can take a long time because you have to go from Wilderness Lodge to, Magic Kingdom to Riviera. But in this case, you were kind of just walking out of Magic Kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was really fast.
And you could have walked the Grand Floridian if you wanted, but the monorail got you there fast enough.
Yeah. We wanted to make sure the boys experienced the monorail. And that was a good choice. They loved that. They loved the monorail.
Big fan of looking at that though. Like what's a good reason for me to ride the monorail? Well, you can go to a resort to take it there.
So when we checked in, they told us they were running 30 minutes behind. That's the only time that happened to us. So again, we just took that time. We went to the bathroom. We refilled our water bottles. We had brought some playing cards with us in our park bags. So we found a little spot in the lobby and played Go Fish. And after we were done playing Go Fish, the boys found the TV that all the lobbies have that play cartoons, and they got really good at finding those. And they just watched some cartoons, and at 12:15, we were called for our reservation. And we had a great time here. This was like the surprise hit of the trip. My husband got steak and eggs, and that was really tasty. I had a bite of it. I had an avocado toast, and that was really good. I think this was the only meal where the boys ate all their food.
Nice.
And we decided we would definitely go back here. And our server told us on any other day, the restaurant is a walk-in. It's just because it was Sunday and it's a brunch. It's like an all-day breakfast place, which we didn't really think about when we were booking that. So little tip for future guests is that it sounds pretty easy to get a reservation here on any day other than Sunday.
It is. I think it's pretty underrated. Easy to get reservations, good food, not super expensive.
Yeah, it wasn't expensive either. We were really impressed with the Grand Floridian Café. And while we were having our meal, Standby Skipper got us a virtual queue for Tiana's. And by the time, We finished our meal. We were back in the park around 2-ish. And at 2:05.
I have a question before we hop back to the park.
Mhm.
I am curious. Did you like the dynamic of dipping out of the park for a bit for a meal and then heading back?
Yes. Yes, we liked that. That was kind of a little rest reset that we appreciated on the days we did that.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually really liked doing that for lunchtime.
Okay. It's good. I like seeing the different, ways of doing things. So I'm glad that you liked that little break. But you said you got back to the park around 2.
We tapped in for Tiana at 2:31. We were off of Tiana's. My kids hated this ride.
They did.
They hated it.
Is it the drop or something else?
It was the drop and getting wet.
Okay.
Well, particularly for my neurodivergent son, he really hated getting wet. He hated the drop. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did he know it was coming?
Yes, he saw it was coming. And this is something, we showed the kids videos of the rides before our trip. But there are some things we learned are not, what's the word I'm looking for, that like you just don't experience on a video the way you do in person. And one of those things we found was drops. Like a video doesn't really share that the way your body does when you're on the ride.
It's a different feeling.
It's a different feeling. I thought Tiana's was very cute. I really appreciated that reimagining. I didn't notice this, but my husband did notice Tiana's mouth wasn't moving in any of the animatronics, the whole ride, and he was a little bummed by that.
They have trouble with these animatronics.
I heard about that on a recent trip report.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's like they brag about the quality of them, and when they work, they are. But man, they break down.
Yeah. So my oldest was really upset after Tiana's, and we went on Jungle Cruise. After that, we had a lightning lane for Jungle Cruise. Let's see. We got there. It was a 1:50 p.m. lightning lane. We scanned in at 2:39. I did note the wait time. There was a 40-minute posted wait for Jungle Cruise. After Jungle Cruise, we scanned into Pirates. We were off, let's see, Pirates is right next to it. So we scanned into Pirates at 2:59 for our 2:50 p.m. lightning lane. At 3:03, we got off Pirates. Pirates was also upsetting.
I was going to say, that's got a bit of a drop.
Yes. Yeah. And I told him as we were waiting, I was like, oh, okay, mommy's been on this ride before. Oh, I remembered it as a small drop, and I didn't remember getting wet. So, little parent fail moment. I was like, oh, it's just a little drop and you don't get wet. Well, that's not correct. So,
to be fair, I think you were accurate at the time that you went on it last, and I feel like you get more wet now.
Oh, okay.
The drop is obviously the same.
Okay,
but
so maybe I do remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, I never used to worry about getting wet on that ride, and now I do. It's a little different.
Yeah. So then Sawyer was really upset after that ride.
Trust issues.
Yeah, definitely created some trust issues there. So we got in line for the Tiki room. We got in line at 3:21 for the 3:30 show, and that cheered everybody up. And at 3:46, we went on to Magic Carpets of Aladdin. My husband booked a lightning lane for that, even though that didn't have a very long wait either. I think it was 15-minute wait. That was not in our plan, but the boys saw it and then really wanted to ride it. And they were both a little upset by the drops and the getting wet. And we had booked a lightning lane for Space Mountain, but Space Mountain was down, so we got in anytime. And I think that's what my husband used that Anytime Experience for was for Magic Carpets. Yeah, and then after Magic Carpets, we headed to Haunted Mansion. On our way to the Haunted Mansion, we saw some of the Country Bears out, like the characters of the Country Bears, and we took some pictures with them because my boys were into the furry characters. And we tapped into our DAS for Haunted Mansion at 4:04. The wait was 35 minutes at this time. We were on the ride by 4:14. And 4:36, we were off the ride and went over to Country Bears.
But I need to know what they thought of Haunted Mansion.
Oh, they loved it. They loved Haunted Mansion.
Okay, so they're okay with the dark and the spooky stuff.
Yes. Yeah, that was fine. It didn't have a drop. So we
That's
were
all that mattered.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. They really loved Haunted Mansion. They
Will you plan
loved
for everybody to ride Space Mountain? Because you got a lightning lane for it.
That was the plan. Some of these plans start to change as the trip progresses. So,
I say this all the time. It's so hard to predict your kids. If it's a first trip, especially because they're like, I don't know what they're into, because they could be very scared of things and not want to ride it. But if they do like it, you want to have the lightning lanes. Just, so you don't have to wait super long time. It's just hard to know.
Right. Yeah. And we did learn as the trip went on, or we thought we did. Visit that at the end.
Okay. Some lessons learned at the end.
Some lessons learned. They loved Country Bears. Sawyer gave it a 10 out of 3. And my husband and I liked the update. I had seen it a really long time ago, but I thought the updates were cute with the current songs. And it seemed like the animatronics were updated too.
Everything's been updated.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the parks, the sentimental parks people were not happy about it because they changed the show. But as your son rated it a 10 out of 3, he would not have done that in the previous version, I don't think.
Oh, yeah, we agreed. I don't think they would have liked it very much, the previous version. I don't think they would have really got it, but they loved this. They thought it was great. And then they saw the Speedway. They really wanted to do a Speedway. We got a lightning lane for the Speedway at 5:08, or we scanned in at 5:08. 5:24, we were off the Speedway. And then we went on the People Mover. We booked a DAS for that. I didn't note what the wait time was for People Mover. And then at 5:52, we got some dinner at Cosmic Rays. The boys loved this place because of the animatronic.
Sunny Eclipse.
Sunny Eclipse, yes. Okay, yes. They loved Sunny. They loved that. And then after dinner, my husband got lightning lanes for Space Mountain. We decided, based off of previous experiences this day, that the boys probably wouldn't like Space Mountain. So I went on Space Mountain while my husband took them on Buzz. And then we switched, and my husband went on Space Mountain, and I took them on Buzz again. And they loved Buzz. That was a good choice.
When? And what did you guys think of Space?
Oh, I liked it. I like that ride. I think it's fun. I do think it helped. I was wearing my scope patch because I didn't feel queasy or anything. And my husband, when he was young, didn't like Space Mountain, or maybe he never went on it, but he was like surprised. He was like, oh, that was really fun. That was actually one of his favorite rides of the trip.
Nice.
Neither of us got back pain.
That's good. I'm glad you both had a chance to ride it, and the boys liked Buzz Lightyear.
Yep. And then after that, the boys repeated the teacups. And after the teacups, we headed over to Sunshine Terrace for some Dole Whips. I had never had a Dole Whip before. I was very anxious to try one. My husband and I split the orange vanilla one, and the boys just got some regular vanilla sauce soft serve. And then it was about time for fireworks. Now, this is where I had done my research, but got carried away with the day and didn't remember where the good spots are for fireworks. And what we should have done when we headed over to Sunshine Terrace, there were already a lot of people grabbing spots for fireworks. And what we should have done was have one parent go grab a spot while the others got the Dole Whips. But we all went to get the Dole Whips and then went to go get a spot for fireworks, and it was pretty crowded. But we saw a little spot coming out of Adventureland, kind of near Crystal Palace. This is not a good spot. There is a tree there. And it doesn't look like this when the show isn't going on, but it obstructs almost all the fireworks.
And you learned that the hard way.
And we learned that the hard way. My husband and I could see the projections. My boys couldn't really see anything. But we brought glow sticks, and they were having fun with their ice creams and their glow sticks, so it was fine. We did find that this was a good spot to wait out the crowd as people were exiting the fireworks. There was like a little fence nearby, and we just like sat down on the fence and kind of waited for the crowds to pass through.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to the boat to go back to Wilderness Lodge. This was probably the longest wait. Like waiting to go back to the hotel on the boat was the longest waits we experienced the whole trip. But it wasn't bad. My boys did well with that. They were very entertained by the ducks. Yeah, and we went back to the hotel. We went to bed and got ready for the next day.
You must have slept well, because that was a rope drop to park closing day.
It was.
Or at least after fireworks.
My husband and I were tired. Yeah.
You and your husband were tired, but not the kids?
Oh, no. We learned our kids are rope drop to park close whenever that is children.
That is good to know. I am always fascinated by these dynamics, because some people discover that they need to leave after dinner or, something like that. But you guys you have kids that want to go.
Yep, they were go.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you, too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Tired of restless nights? At Leesa, they know good sleep is essential for mental, physical, and emotional health. From memory foam mattresses to hybrids that keep you cool all night long, Leesa's mattresses offer exceptional comfort and support with free delivery and 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your home. Go to leesa.com today and get 20% off all mattresses and 2 free pillows. That's LEESA.com and use code IHEART for an extra $50 off your purchase. Remember, no matter who you are, there's a Leesa just for you.
With the best all-inclusive vacation deals to Mexico and the Caribbean, booking your getaway with cheap Caribbean vacations means you have more freedom to do your deal. Whether you want to enjoy snorkeling, endless margaritas, and more, or simply soak up the sun and sand in a tropical paradise, Cheap Caribbean Vacations has your deal for that. Plan and book the exact way you want at exactly the right price for you by using our exclusive Budget Beach Finder. Or find a featured all-inclusive package to Iberostar Hotel and Resorts in Jamaica and do your deal at cheapcaribbean.com.
Okay. Well, they had a chance to go the next day again, because Monday, February 3rd was Epcot. I think you said no lightning lanes, but you were going to use DAS.
Correct. Yeah. So this day we were all up at 5:15.
So early.
Yeah.
My husband That's going to come in handy for Animal Kingdom, I expect.
Yes. I think it was. We got a lot of stuff done in the mornings at all the parks. So early entry really helped us, I feel, get a lot done. And my husband is up early for his job, and my kids are early risers, so we're just used to getting up early.
Mm-hmm.
The day started out kind of foggy and muggy outside. We drove to Epcot, arrived at 7:45, and we waited near the land pavilion. At Epcot, they let everybody in at like 8:30 on the dot. We went into the land pavilion, and the Living with the Land ride had no wait. Nobody was in line. We got in that line. We were the only ones on the boat. There was nobody else on the ride.
Can I just say that Living with the Land is not on the early entry ride list? So it's kind of confusing because sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not.
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, it was available this day. We were the only ones on the ride at all. And my boys thought that was so cool. Mm-hmm. They loved that ride. And then while we were on Living with the Land, we got a DAS for Soarin'. Right after getting off Living on the Land, we tapped in to Soarin'. And we just found almost without exception, this is like the one exception, and it wasn't even a big deal. People were so kind and polite, employees, other park guests alike. But while we were waiting there was a couple in front of us who was having like a whisper fight. It was pretty entertaining. But that was like the only bad beat. It wasn't even that bad. That was like the only like somewhat negative behavior. So
you're lucky that was it, because sometimes it can get kind of bad. But you're saying this was the wait for Soarin' that you saw a whisper fight.
Yeah.
At least they're whispering, I guess.
Yeah. And we got on Soarin'. We got in row 3, which was good for my husband. My husband doesn't like heights. And so that was like a good place for him to be. My kids loved this ride. And then while we were waiting in line for Soarin', we booked a DAS for Remy. And Standby Skipper got us a virtual queue for Guardians. And when we were done with Soarin', we walked over to Guardians. We tapped into Guardians around 9:27 for the virtual queue. And at 9:50 or so, we were off. We got the song I Ran. My boys hated this ride. They hated it.
They don't like intense rides.
No. Yeah. They were both freaking out. And they did not want to go on it again. And we had a lightning lane for it later in the day. So after Guardians, we walked over to France, and at 10:27 scanned into Remy. We all liked this ride. At 10:38, we were off, and we went over to Leal for like an early lunch. Mm-hmm. And we loved Leal. That was one of our favorite meals of the trip too. My husband got the apple and brie sandwich. I got the quiche Florentine. One of my boys got a croissant. We also got a baguette to share. And then we gave the boys, we had like peanut butter sandwiches and other snacks packed. And that's what they ate along with their bread. But everything was really good.
And when you were there, was it like before it got busy?
It seemed busy there. There was a long line. This was actually one of the things we had to wait a while for to get through the line. We were lucky to get a table. There isn't a lot of, I mean, I had heard that, but there really isn't a lot of seating there. But after we got our food, there were some gentlemen sitting down who like saw we had our food, and they were like, oh, come sit down. We'll leave. Like, we're done. We were just chatting. And that was really kind of them. Yeah. And after our lunch, we went back over to Guardians for our lightning lane. And this is where we did another switch. I went on Guardians first while my husband, Sam, took the boys to Mission Space. He got a DAS for that, but he said that they could have just walked on.
But did they like Mission Space?
They did the green one. They loved it. My husband didn't like it. He said he felt claustrophobic. And my second Guardians, I got Conga, which was much more fun, in my opinion, than I Ran. It might have also helped that I didn't have a child freaking out next to me.
It does help, because then you're worried about them the whole time.
Yeah. But Congo was really fun. And then the boys finished up with Mission Space. And I took the boys. Sam went on Guardians. He also got Conga. Also thought it was much more fun without a scared child next to him. And while Sam was on the ride, My younger one had a little bit of a moment. He thought I was taking them on a ride like Daddy had, and that was not the plan. So we went into that little tunneled area between Connections and the restaurant over there. Creations, yes. Connections and Creations. At this point, the sun had come out, and it wasn't super hot, but it was getting warm, and the sun was really bright. So we went in the shade. We had some water. We had a snack. And then my younger one calmed down, and we went to the bathroom, and we filled water bottles. And by that time, Dad was off the ride, and we went to Club Cool. After that, they had fun. They were trying the different sodas. And meanwhile, we got a DAS for Spaceship Earth. At 1:08, we tapped into Spaceship Earth. My boys really liked this ride. And after we had tapped into Spaceship Earth, we got a DAS for Nemo. When we were off Spaceship Earth, we headed over to the seas, and it wasn't quite time for our return for Nemo, so we went through the Moana Journey of Water. My sensory kid really liked this. He loved the Moana experience, and I do think what I noticed was, like, if he could see that there was water. Like, it wasn't unexpected water. Like, then that was fun, and that was fine. And at 1:54, we tapped into Nemo with DAS. This had a 40-minute wait.
That's wild.
I heard somebody behind us. My husband and I haven't been into the parks since we were teenagers. And, I don't really know what's normal or what's busy. Epcot seems like a little busy, but not super busy. But I heard somebody behind me saying, oh, if Nemo has a 40-minute wait, it's a busy day at Epcot.
Yes, that is my barometer for Epcot as well.
Okay. All right. So we tapped into we were off Nemo at 2. And then we explored that aquarium area, and Sawyer rated this a 6 out of 3 because Nemo was a 3 out of 3 and the aquarium was a 3 out of 3.
So you add them together and you get a 6 out of 3.
And you get a 6 out of 3.
So did you do turtle talk while you're in there? Would you just walk around the aquarium?
We just walked around the aquarium and watched the aquatic creatures. We didn't end up doing turtle talk. Mm-hmm. And after Nemo, or while we were waiting for Nemo, we got a DAS to Figment. We tapped into Figment at 2:27. That was a 15-minute posted wait. After we were off Figment, Figment was out, and there wasn't a long line for Figment, so we met Figment and took some pictures with him because my oldest really wanted to. And then we took a little reset, again, like sunscreen, water, snacks, and then we headed to the World Showcase. My husband, growing up, always did Mexico to Canada. So, like, that is how he does the World Showcase. If we went back again and we went during the same time, we would probably do the reverse.
Why is that?
We were walking into the sun.
Oh, okay.
Going Mexico to Canada. This was around like 3:00. And until it started getting dark, we were walking straight into the sun for most of World Showcase. And this day was, again, not too bad. We didn't really have any like terrible heat, but I think the high was 82 that day. So,
and you're just like in the thick of it, right? That afternoon. That was like the hottest part of the day.
Right. Yeah. So we started in Mexico. My husband and I split the steak from the booth, the festival booth in Mexico. We thought that was very good. Yeah. And then the boys saw a poster for the rainbow cake in that little like pavilion area. And they really wanted to try the rainbow cake. So we went in there and we ordered one for them to share, but the cast member there gave us another one and said it was on Mickey. And that was really sweet and really kind. And that cake was actually good. I was expecting it to be really sugary, and it wasn't too sweet.
And it's pretty in pictures.
And it's pretty. Yes, it's very photographable. And then as we explored Mexico a little more, my husband and I got some margaritas from the stand, not from the restaurant or the Cava del Tequila. And I thought the margaritas were really good. And then at 4:01, we tapped into Frozen while we were doing all that. My husband had gotten a DAS for Frozen. At 4:06, we were on the ride. Now, my oldest was getting really nervous while we were in line for Frozen because he saw it was a boat and there was water, and he was worried there was a drop, which there is like a little bit of one, but it didn't scare him once we were on the ride. I thought Frozen was very cute. Nobody else in my family really loved it.
Are they fans of the movie?
Yeah, my boys liked the movie. It's not their favorite. You know, they're old enough now that they're kind of like, princess movies. But they like Frozen. I think they just kind of found at this point there were other sorts of rides they liked. And after Frozen, we went to the Kringla Bakery. My husband really wanted to try the school bread. And we also got a cinnamon roll for the kids. My kids had a lot of sugar this day. And then we just made our way through the World Showcase. My boys really liked doing the KidCot stations. We got them all except Japan. We missed the Japan one. And they also liked finding the chalk characters that were in each country for the Festival of the Arts. They had a lot of fun looking in each country for the chalk characters. They loved the model train. When we were in Japan, we stopped for the Wagyu bun at the booth, and that was also tasty. And at 6:15, we went on Remy again. We had booked another DAS for Remy. And at 7 p.m., we were done with the World Showcase. Oh, a little tip. If you're in Canada when it's dark, it's really hard to find the chalk character. We did find him with the assistance of a cast member, but he is hard to see in the dark. Yeah. And at this point, my husband and I are losing steam. The boys really wanted, not the kids, they wanted to stay. And we had done I guess there were a few things we missed, but we had done like all the rides. And so we went back on Soarin' with a DAS. We went back on Living with the Land, which was a walk-on. And the boys wanted to stay for the fireworks. At this point, it was 7:46. And I probably could have rallied to stay for the fireworks, but my husband was really losing steam. And so we told the kids, we were like, let's go to the front of the park and watch the light show on the golf ball. And so we headed there and we sat and we watched the light show there. They thought that was really cool. And then when that finished up, we just guided them back to our car. We didn't say we were not doing the fireworks. We were just like, oh, we're going back to the car. And then by 8:28, we were back at the resort. They took that really well. They were like, oh, are we not staying for fireworks? And we said, yeah, we were really tired. Daddy's really tired. And they were like, oh, okay. So we put Happily Ever After on the TV in the hotel, and they were fine with that. And we were in bed by 9:30. Yeah. We did 26,000 steps that day.
Listen, understandable for Epcot. Because you were like, we were on Guardians and then we went to France. Well, that's a long walk. So
I know it is a long walk from ride to ride in Epcot.
It's a hard part.
Yeah. And my husband and I reflected that next time we go, if we want to stay for fireworks for Epcot, we probably need not my kids, but like he and I need to go back to the hotel and have a little rest to have the energy for the nighttime show.
It's a long day, especially all the walking, all the heat. It's a lot.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
So good news for the parents. The next day was a non-park day.
Yes, it was a non-park day. We were up at 6:15, so we were tired. Slept till 6:15.
You slept in. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Sawyer did he had some homework to do while we were on the trip. So he did a little homework while the rest of us got ready. At 9:06, we headed to the Riviera. It didn't take us long to drive to the Riviera. Mm-hmm. At 9:30, we were up there at Topolino's and we checked in for our 9:35 reservation. We were seated at exactly 9:35. And this was a much better character meal, in our opinion. It was loud, but Topolino seems to absorb the sound a little better, so it just wasn't as loud. It was a little more manageable. And the character interactions were so cute. We got a lot more time with each character. Like we got to see Mickey twice, and it didn't feel rushed. Oh, and during this meal, so my boys love Donald. And Donald was making his pathway through our section, and then they did their little like character dance and then had a break. And then when Donald came back, he went to a different section. And then like our meal was kind of wrapping up, and the boys were really worried they weren't going to meet Donald. And so my husband let our server know. And then Donald's human helper came to our table and said, I heard that Donald didn't get a chance to visit you yet. And she's like, I see you're like working on your check right now. I'm just going to hang out here until you're done, and then I will take you to meet Donald when you're done. And she just stayed there and waited patiently. And when our meal was done, she took us over to see Donald, and that was really sweet. And we like really appreciated that they made sure that happened for us. And then we went out on the terrace. That is beautiful. The terrace there is beautiful. And we could see, that was a really pretty clear morning. We could see the Animal Kingdom tree from where we were. We could see a lot of the resorts. We could see Hollywood Studios. And then over on like the other side, there was a window near the bathrooms, and we could see Epcot and Magic Kingdom over there. It was really pretty. And then we walked around the Riviera. We went over to see the mosaics down there near the Skyliner entry. And at 11:30, we drove back to the hotel. We changed our clothes, and at 12:15, we took a bus to Disney Springs. And my boys, they loved getting like all the transportation.
You've done monorail and bus and boat so far.
Yeah. And my youngest one was so funny. Like when we were when we were riding to Disney Springs, he was noticing the other buses, and he goes, Mom, the people who paint these buses are so talented. They were so delighted by everything, Shannon. It was so cute. Like
that is really cute. The graphic artists are talented. And
they are.
The buses are cute.
They are. Yeah. They were just like seeing all the characters and all the different movies represented on the buses. And the same thing later in the trip, we rode the Skyliner, and they also had fun checking out the different Skyliner cars.
That's adorable that they think about stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And at 12:44, we arrived in Disney Springs. At 1 p.m., we went to the Lego store. Their appointments for the minifigures were 30 minutes apart. Like that was the only... Like we couldn't get them together for that, but they let both the boys in at the same time for that. But we were in the Lego store a long time. We got out of there at 1:45. I love Legos. And then we went over to the World of Disney store. They really wanted to go to Goofy's Candy Co. And then after Goofy's, we walked over to the other side of Disney Springs. My husband and I stopped the little kiosk at Wine Bar George, and we got a glass of rosé. And at the Lego store, the boys had, on top of their like customized minifigures, had gotten like a little surprise pack of minifigures. So while we drank our wine, they put together their minifigures. There was nobody else out there. We had that little patio all to ourselves. And then it didn't seem busy in Disney Springs. And my husband was like, oh, well, maybe there won't be a line at Gideon's. Like, maybe we'll have time to stop there. And I said, I bet everybody's at Gideon's. We walked past Gideon's and I was right. Everybody was at Gideon's. So we didn't go there. At 3:52, we arrived at Homecoming for our 4 o'clock reservation. We were seated immediately. The chef sent us some free donuts as like an appetizer.
Why did they say why?
They just said the chef wanted to give these to you. We were seated right near the kitchen. I don't know if you saw us. And like the boys were still wearing their first time buttons. So I don't know if that was like a little Disney magic.
Yeah, but your kids needed more sugar for sure.
Yes, definitely. And Fitz got mac and cheese and he loved it. He ate the whole bowl. And then he asked our server if he could get more, and they gave him more. This was a good meal. It was yummy. They were very kid-friendly over there. I thought it was really yummy. I have some issues with and oil. Mm-hmm. And I did this as a treat. A little later, my tummy was not happy that I did that, but it was really tasty. We were done at 4:55, and we did a few more stores. And we kind of just did stores the boys wanted to go to. So we did like the Star Wars and the Marvel store. My oldest really wanted to go to the Coca-Cola store. I'm not really sure why, but we went there. And then we went back to the bus. We waited only 5 minutes for a bus. And at 5:50, we were back at the hotel. My husband did some laundry. The boys wanted to swim. And so I took them to the pool for swimming. And they swam for about an hour and a half. We did end our pool time. My youngest swallowed a bunch of pool water and then got sick in the pool.
Oh, no.
The cast members were so nice about it, though. And, like, I didn't even, he got sick in the pool. He climbed out. Both my kids were a little upset. And one of the cast members at the pool, I think, saw something was going on. And he came over and he was like, hey, what's going on? Is there anything I can help you with? And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. My youngest got sick in the pool. And he was like, oh, no worries. It happens all the time. And he's like, we're going to have to shut down the pool. But like, please. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, please don't feel bad. It really, it happens all the time. I don't know if that's true, but they were very kind to us about it. If anybody listening was at Wilderness Lodge that night and had their swimming time cut short, I'm sorry. At 8 o'clock, we were back in the hotel. We took showers and went to bed. And the next day was Animal Kingdom.
Next day was Animal Kingdom. You didn't have multi-pass lightning lanes booked for this day, but you did have a single pass for Flight of Passage, I think.
Yes. Yeah. We woke up at 5:45. This is where my scope patch comes back into play. I'd replaced my scope patch the night before. And I woke up. I don't wear glasses and I've never had my eyes checked. I woke up and I had brought my own like shampoo and conditioner, and I went to wash my hair and I couldn't read the bottles. Like I don't know which one is my shampoo or conditioner.
Mary, what'd you put on your hair?
Oh, no, I got that clarified before I put it on my hair. Okay. So we were good.
Oh, you're saying the scope patch made your eyes blurry, so you had a hard time reading it? And I thought you were going to find out because you'd accidentally put something on your hair that wasn't supposed to be.
Oh, no. It was the scope patch. My husband's a nurse, so he was like, oh, you need to take that scope patch off. You're having a few side effects from the scope patch. And so my notes aren't quite as good this day because I couldn't read my phone.
You couldn't see?
I could see like Animal Kingdom. I just couldn't like read small writing. So, and this day, this was our only negative experience with a cast member. My husband called the valet to get our car. And the person who answered the phone said she was off the clock. The person who was supposed to be there wasn't there. And we couldn't have our car.
Great.
And she wasn't very nice about it.
She sounds frustrated, but that's not your fault.
Yes. She did sound frustrated. It sounds like a frustrating situation. Yeah. So we ended up busing to Animal Kingdom. We got on the bus at 6:50. We got to Animal Kingdom at 7:05. By 7:22, we were in the park. And we got a DAS for Navi River. We were on there at 7. It only had a 10-minute wait at this point, so that's probably a good one to hit early in the morning if you're not doing lightning lanes. I really loved this ride. I thought it was beautiful. And my whole family liked the ride. I would have done that again, though, but my family was not. Nobody else in our party was interested in doing that again. And at 7:44, we were off the ride. At 8:05, we tapped into Flight of Passage for our lightning lane. My oldest didn't like this. This also got a 0 out of 3. A few things he didn't like. He didn't like the noise, and he didn't like the seat. The seat bothered him. He felt really uncomfortable in the seat. This was also one where like the video doesn't really give you the idea of what the drops feel like. So he didn't like the drops and he didn't like getting wet. However, my youngest Fitz gave this a 10 out of 3. He loved this. He thought this was great. This was like his favorite ride of the whole trip. Yeah. And my husband and I thought that was really cool. And luckily I was like, even though I took the scope patch off, I was still getting the benefits of it because I definitely couldn't have done that without something to help because I just generally don't do well with screens. Then we got a DAS for the safari. And at 9:02, we tapped into safari. We saw lots of animals. A lot of them were active. Like the zebras were particularly active this day or at this safari, and the lions too. But we couldn't hear the driver very well. Although I don't think that was the driver's fault. There were lots of little kids on this safari and they were very excited and made it hard to hear the driver. But that's okay. I get it. At 9:30, we were off the ride and we went through Gorilla Falls, and then the boys got a Wilderness Explorer book. This was a hit. The boys loved finding the Wilderness Explorer stations. And after we went through the Gorilla Falls Trail, we were walking through Africa past the Lion King show, and a cast member outside of the Lion King stopped us and asked if we were planning to come to the show that day. We said yes. And she said, can you come to the 11 a.m. show? And she led us to a spot and she got our names and she said, okay, at 10:45, come back here for the 11 a.m. show. Whoever's here, give them your name.
I'm excited about this.
And we had a little time before this show. My husband wanted to try the lumpia from Pandora. So we went over there. He got the lumpia. The boys got the Night Blossom drink. And my oldest really liked this. And then we had our snacks and we headed back to the Lion King and we got front row seats. That was I'm sorry, I'm going to cry. That was really special. Especially, I actually have a background in theater. I used to be an actor, and like Disney just does such a good job with their shows at the parks. And so that was really special. And the boys got to teach everybody how to be giraffes. That was so sweet. And we all liked the show. The boys really liked the monkeys. And my oldest was a little nervous about the fire dancer, that the fire made him nervous, but
understandable.
Yes. Yes.
It seems very dangerous.
Yes, it does. So that was really fun and really special. And then after the Lion King, we headed over to Asia. My husband and I wanted to do Everest. And there was like a 40-minute wait for Everest. And we didn't have lightning lanes this day. And my boys weren't interested in going on Everest. And so my husband found a cast member because we just weren't sure if we needed to go in the standby line and do rider switch or if we should do single rider. And the cast member we talked to was just like gave us lightning lanes. It was so nice. We got so much pixie dust this trip.
I know. It's really amazing because you had several things.
Yeah. it was really special. I'm still like in awe.
So were they lightning lanes that you could use right away?
Yeah.
Nice.
So Sam went on Everest first, and then there was a Wilderness Explorer station near the ride where you had to find the different Yeti faces, and the boys and I did that. And then I went on Everest, and there's actually another Wilderness Explorer station inside the gift shop, and there's like an activity there that the boys did. And then meanwhile, I didn't know my husband had done this. He had gotten on the walk-up wait list for Nomad Lounge. We didn't think that was somewhere we wanted to go, but we didn't plan to eat there because you don't have a guaranteed reservation. It also didn't look like there'd be food for the boys there, but we ended up getting a reservation there. And after Everest, we took the boys to lunch at Pizzafari, and we did a mobile order that was ready really fast. The boys loved the puffy pizza. And then my husband and I went over to Nomad Lounge. That was around 1:09. And we got the poke bowl and the bao. My husband got a cocktail. I was still feeling a little queasy this day from homecoming, so I did not get a cocktail. I got a ginger ale, but my husband really liked his cocktail here. And I can see why everybody loves Nomad Lounge. It was the only place we went to the trip where we didn't feel like we were in a theme park anymore. Mm-hmm. It was so like peaceful and pretty in there. So definitely somewhere we would go back.
It's a great reset.
Yes, definitely. And after a meal, while we were at Nomad Lounge, we decided to skip Dinosaur because we also were worried, particularly with my oldest, that would be an upsetting ride. And it wasn't really that wasn't a ride any of us flagged as a priority during the trip. So we made our way to Rafiki's Planet Watch, and on our way we did more Wilderness Explorer stations. We really just like kind of moseyed around Animal Kingdom this day. Like we weren't really running around. Our way to Rafiki's, we passed by the Nemo show, and that was a walk-on for the 2:30 show. So we went to Nemo. This was also a wonderful show. We really liked it.
If you're a theater background person, those Animal Kingdom shows will get you.
They are great. They are wonderful. They are so good. And then after Nemo, we went to the Jungle Trail, the Maharaja Jungle Trail, and the boys got more Wilderness Explorer badges. We were hoping to see the tiger cub. He was not out. And we heard the cast member there, they were talking to some other folks about the tiger cub and saying they were adjusting to having really big crowds there at the tiger exhibition, that like the last time there was a cub, social media wasn't a thing. Mm-hmm. So people didn't know about it. But because of social media, like a bunch of people were crowding there in the mornings. So yeah. And then at 3:36, we took the train to Rafiki. My eyes were fine by this point. They had settled. I could see again. And Timon was out again, not a long line. And we met Timon. We did the Wilderness Explorer stations there. And we were looking at the little animal hospital clinic there. And my husband was commenting on the anesthesia machine because that's what he does. And a cast member heard him commenting on it. And so he had a little conversation with the cast member about anesthetizing animals. And we learned the hardest animal to anesthetize is the ducks, because they hold their breath.
What?
Yeah. Apparently, this is the case.
That is hilarious. I expected to hear about a large animal.
I know. Yeah.
It's a duck.
It's a duck. Yeah. So fun fact for the day. We did the affection section, and then we had pretty much done all the rides we wanted to do, and we got a DAS for Safari again at 4:35. And it was really nice to do this again. At this point, there were only adults on the ride, so we could hear the driver. And like some different animals were active at this time. A lot of them were like sleepy or out of their exhibits, but like the giraffes were a little more active. And we got a wildebeest crossing, which was really exciting for my boys. They were really hoping to get like an animal crossing. Yeah. And then at 5:06, we headed to the bus for the Animal Kingdom Lodge for our Sanaa reservation. The bus came right as we got in line.
I am concerned because you were planning to have your car.
Yes, this gets no biggie, but our journey back to our resort gets a little complicated. We arrived at 5:22 for our 5:45 p.m. reservation. We were seated around 5:30, and that was just nice. We went out to the little deck there and watched the animals. Again, the giraffes were pretty active around this time, so that was fun. We were seated near a window. Oh, that was really fun. And we liked Sanaa. That was yummy. The bread service is really good, although our boys didn't end up eating any of that. And that probably could have been my husband and I's meal. We didn't have a lot of room for like our entrees after the bread service. And my oldest during the meals had gotten into ordering the desserts on the kids' menus. And this night he ordered a dessert, but they brought a free one out for my younger one, which was really nice. So it's like the dessert with the banana pudding and graham crackers, and that was really fun. And they gave my husband and I a free dessert too. That was really nice.
You're getting more things than
I know.
Maybe ever.
I couldn't believe it. And we felt bad too, because like we didn't have room for all this food.
Yeah, you're not. It doesn't sound like you're even a huge dessert person, but you're like, it just keeps coming.
It just keeps coming. At 6:45, we were done with our meal and we hopped back on the bus, and we had to go bus to Magic Kingdom. Mm-hmm. And from Magic Kingdom, got on a boat back to the resort. We weren't back to our hotel until 7:48.
So that is where the long commute times come in.
Yes.
That experience.
Yes. And that it would have been very nice to have our car this day. It was a bummer. We didn't have our car. We still, that didn't ruin the day or anything. But yeah, we had 19,000 steps that day.
It sounds like a good Animal Kingdom day, though, because you did all the rides you wanted to do. You did both shows. You did a lot of the animal things, some food. Like, you kind of hit everything you wanted.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite park days. It was really relaxed, good mix of rides and adventures and experiences and good food that day.
Yeah, that sounds delightful.
This is Jenny Garth from I Do Part 2. Everyone's talking about GLP-1s like Ozempic, semaglutide. With Future Health, you can find out if they're right for you, too. Just go to tryfh.com, that's tryfh.com, and find out if weight loss meds are right for you in just 3 minutes. Future Health is not a healthcare services provider. Meds are prescribed at provider's discretion. Results may vary. Sponsored by Future Health.
Tired of restless nights? At Leesa, they know good sleep is essential for mental, physical, and emotional health. From memory foam mattresses to hybrids that keep you cool all night long, Leesa's mattresses offer exceptional comfort and support with free delivery and 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your home. Go to leesa.com today and get 20% off all mattresses and 2 free pillows. That's leesa.com and use code IHEART for an extra $50 off your purchase. Remember, no matter who you are, there's a Leesa just for you.
With the best all-inclusive vacation deals to Mexico and the Caribbean, booking your getaway with cheap Caribbean vacations means you have more freedom to do your deal. Whether you want to enjoy snorkeling, endless margaritas, and more, or simply soak up the sun and sand in a tropical paradise, Cheap Caribbean Vacations has your deal for that. Plan and book the exact way you want at exactly the right price for you by using our exclusive Budget Beach Finder. Or find a featured all-inclusive package to Iberostar Hotel and Resorts in Jamaica and do your deal at cheapcaribbean.com.
The next day was Thursday, February 6th, and you're headed to Hollywood Studios.
This day, we were up at 6:30, so as the trip goes on, a little less early rising. At 8:05, we picked up the car from the valet. We parked around 8:21. It didn't actually take us... My husband missed the exit that day, so that turned us around a little bit and ate up time, but it was a really quick drive over to Hollywood Studios. At 8:31, we arrived in the park. We were planning to do Mickey and Minnie's, but at 8:31, it already had a 35-minute wait. So we grabbed a DAS for Smuggler's Run, which only had a 5-minute wait. And honestly, we probably didn't need the DAS. It was a walk-on. The boys loved this ride. My youngest gave this a 10.5 out of 3. The boys were gunners, and we were...
How did it hit you, Miss Motion Sick Mom?
I was fine. I did... Oh no, I wasn't wearing the scope patch, but like the medicine was still working. So I was fine this time. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
This one I was fine. And we saw Ray on the way to Smuggler's Run. And the boy, like, they thought it was really cool to see her. They didn't want a picture with Ray though. And on 9 o'clock, we were off the ride and we were waiting for our lightning lane for Rise, so we just kind of walked around Batu. We saw the Mandalorian walking around the market area. The boys thought that was really cool too, just to see. So we saw a lot of characters in Hollywood Studios just kind of wandering, and that was really cool.
But this particular land is that, thing I was talking about earlier, where it's nice to just see characters kind of out and about.
Yeah,
because you can kind of observe them. Like your boys didn't necessarily want to talk to them, take a picture, but they like to see them.
Right. Yes. Yeah. They loved that. It really adds to the experience of being there too. Like it makes it really feel like you're in a Star Wars tale. Like
it's more immersive. I find leaving Galaxy's Edge to be a little bit jarring because it's like, no, this was immersive.
Right. Yes.
Nothing else quite is quite like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. At 9:18, we tapped into Rise. And 9:19, we were in the first pre-show. 9:41, we were off the ride. This is when the ratings start to get really funny. This was a 10 out of 10.
Really? Even with the slight drop?
Well, Fitz is my younger one who's not neurodiverse. My oldest gave this a 2 out of 3.
Okay, so he wasn't as enthusiastic.
And we brought his noise-canceling headphones, and he wore them for this ride, but he didn't hate it. It wasn't a 0 or a 1. It was like, oh, it was okay. My husband and I thought this was a really cool ride experience, and my husband really wanted to try to do it again. At 9:47, we tapped into our lightning lane for Toy Story Mania. And once we had tapped into that, my husband got a DAS for Swirling Saucers. The boys love Toy Story Mania. That's cute. It's cute. I'm not very good at it. I'm not good at Buzz either. My husband is very good at it. Oh, my husband got a sticker for Buzz, like for doing a good job. So nice. Yeah. At 10:01, we were off Toy Story Mania. This my oldest Sawyer said this was his favorite. Fitz gave this a 100. I don't know what out of. It just got a 100.
Well, they like the arcade. Mm-hmm. They like a game.
They like a game. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we went over to Saucers. That was a 20-minute wait for standby. My boys really like this ride. I don't need to go on that again. And at 10:15, we tapped into Slinky. We had a lightning lane for that. Sawyer. So I thought Sawyer would like this one because he liked Barnstormer and he liked Mine Train. And he had a little freak out right as we were getting on the ride. And it was a little too late to get off. And he did not like it. But Fitz loved it, who had not liked Barnstormer or Mine Train. Fitz loved this. This was his new favorite ride. And he was like, I want to do that again. After Slinky, we went to Muppet Vision. We are a Muppets family. We love the Muppets. It was really nice to see that before it closes. My oldest was sad that the Muppets song wasn't in it and that animal wasn't in it. But liked it. And then meanwhile, we booked a DAS for Mickey and Minnie's with an 11 a.m. return. And let's see. After Muppet Vision, the boys tapped into Star Tour, or I put they tapped in. I don't think they had a lightning lane for that, though. I don't think there was a wait for Star Tours. While I did the lightning lane for Tower of Terror. My husband doesn't like heights. We didn't think the boys would do well on this one.
They don't like drops.
They don't like drops, so I did that by myself. I like drops because historically, those are the only drops I can handle. Drops don't make me motion sick. So I love Tower of Terror. The boys love Star Tours. Fitz got to be the Rebel Spy. He gave that a 10,000. So, and then after they had done Star Tours and I did Tower of Terror, we went to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That had a 45-minute standby line at that point. And while we were kind of making our way through the queue of Railway, my husband put in a mobile order for pizza Rizzo. Yeah, we loved Mickey and Minnie's. That was very cute. The boys loved it. And after Mickey and Minnie's, we went to Pizza Rizzo. We got a seat in the wedding room. The boys thought that was so cool, and they're very upset that's not going to be there the next time we go. And
They're
then
gonna
my
have to work up the courage to go on a Muppets-themed rock and roller coaster, though.
Yes.
Next
Yes.
time.
I think at least one of them will have the courage to do that. And then my husband picked up, he put in a mobile order for a Ronto wrap, and he and I split that. That was yummy. And that wasn't as heavy as I was expecting. It didn't taste as heavy as I expected it to. That was really good. And then we booked a DAS for Rise. My oldest was willing to try it again. And while we waited, again, like little, reset, sunscreen, waters, and we explored Batu a little more. I mean, that area is so cool. There's so much attention to detail. And then we saw stormtroopers out.
Are you guys Star Wars fans?
We're not like diehard Star Wars fans, but we like Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I just think like the theming of it is it's so cool. And my boys love seeing the stormtroopers, and they did want to take a picture with the stormtroopers. And we tapped into Rise for our DAS. At that point, it had a 95-minute wait. Oh, I wanted to point out in the morning when we were on our way to Millennium Falcon, Rise only had a 20-minute standby. So like it didn't feel that busy in Hollywood Studios this day, but again, like noted, if we're doing a trip without lightning lanes in the future, like that would be a good time to go.
Yeah, but it's usually not like that.
Okay. Okay.
Be careful. It sounds like you got, some good low crowd times.
We did. So I don't really know how some of these things are when it's crowded. Yeah. So after we did Rise again, my oldest upgraded this to a 3. So we did learn sometimes when you know what to expect, you have a better experience on the ride.
That was brave of them to go again.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing does help probably.
Yes. And then at 1:30, we walked over to Rock and Roller Coaster. We had lightning lanes for that. We did another like switcheroo. I went on it first. There was a little delay after getting on the ride vehicle. We had to wait a few minutes for the ride to go. And the boys wanted to do Star Tours again. I don't like that's another ride I have very bad memories of how I felt after doing that. So I just wasn't interested in doing Star Tours. So the boys went on that again because it was only a 5-minute wait. While I went on Rock and Roller Coaster. And then they got back. Dad got on the ride. And the boys and I went to the gift shop. And while we were in the gift shop, my son Sawyer was wearing a Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem t-shirt. And a cast member stopped us and said, "That's who's going to be on the new version of this ride. The next time you come back, Dr. Teeth will be here on this ride." And she's like, "Oh, we're all so excited for that." So I don't know if he might be brave enough to try that next time with the Muppets retheming. We'll see. But it was really cute.
That's a really intense ride to convince somebody to do because of the inversions and all.
Yeah, we'll see. Not a big deal if he doesn't want to. I'm excited for the Muppets. Yeah, and then while we were doing that, Standby Skipper booked us another Smuggler's run for 2:30. The boys the boys had the opportunity to be pilots, but they wanted to be gunners again. And my husband and I were the pilots. I'm a terrible pirate, and I did start to feel motion sick after this one. So my scope patch the medicine was wearing off. It also might not have helped that I was at the front. And let's see. Then we got a DAS for Toy Story Mania. That was a 50-minute posted wait. This was around 3:15. We did Toy Story Mania again. And then at 3:53, we headed over to the Beauty and the Beast show. We walked right in for the 4 p.m. showing. And then the boys wanted to do Mickey and Minnie's again.
I want to ask about Beauty and the Beast as a theater person. Did you appreciate that show?
I did. I did.
It's live singing.
Yes, it's very good. And it was funny. My boys were upset because they left parts out.
They did.
Yeah.
But you can't fit it all in.
I said that. I was like, well, they're just like 30-minute shows, so they have to like only share the necessary things. And they're like, yeah, but some of it didn't make sense because they left stuff out. I'm like, but you knew that you've seen the movie. So like, like most people have seen the movie, so they can fill it in.
Exactly. There's probably most people that go to the show have seen the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Gaston was very good in the show we saw. He was kind of a standout to me. Yeah. And Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney movie, so that was fun. Yeah.
Nice. And where did you say you went after that?
We went back to Runaway Railway. Oh, and I felt queasy after our second Toy Story Mania. I felt queasy after Runaway Railway. So definitely that scope patch was helping me, the trip do all these things. And then after Mickey and Minnie's, we went to the Skyliner and went back to the Riviera for our Topolino's dinner.
Another kind of transportation.
Yes, they loved that. They loved the Skyliner. Oh, and we almost changed this reservation. In the evening after our Animal Kingdom day, my tummy was not doing well. We don't eat out a lot. And I think my tummy was just not doing great from having so many restaurant meals. And we almost changed this, but then we didn't. And I'm glad we didn't. Let's see, we checked in at 5:30 for that meal. Our server, Sammy, was wonderful. This was the best service we had the whole trip. And we didn't have bad service anywhere, but this was such good service. My husband and I shared a bottle of wine. It was really good. Sammy was very good at like guiding us to what we were looking for. The food was yummy. It was a little heavy for me, but it was good. My youngest Fitz said those were the best buttered noodles he's ever had. And we did note, like, I would really want to go back there without my children and like have a bottle of wine on the terrace. That'd be really
a good
nice.
date night.
A good date night place, yeah. At 7:52, I didn't know what time we left the restaurant, but at 7, we didn't end up staying for Fantasmic. Again, the boys wanted to, but my husband and I were losing steam. And this was the day I think my husband could have rallied to stay. They loved Hollywood Studios. They loved that park. They wanted to do like all the rides again, but I was losing steam this day.
Send him and the boys to Fantasmic and you go to sleep.
I know. That's what we need to do next time. So 7:52, we went back to the car. 8 p.m., we were back at the hotel and we got back right in time for Happily Ever After. So we ran over to the docks and we watched Happily Ever After instead. And we got a good view of the fireworks from the docks. Like we couldn't see the projections, but you could see the fireworks really well. And then at 8:30, we were back in the room, showered, bedtime. And while that was all happening, we changed Tiana's for the next day to Space Mountain because I didn't need to go on Tiana's again. It is kind of a production because getting the ponchos on and stuff, I'm glad I did it once.
And the ride itself does take a little while.
It does, yeah. It's a time-consuming ride. So we changed that to Space Mountain. Yeah.
It was your last park day the next day, Friday, February 7th. Back to Magic Kingdom. I like this anchoring your trip with Magic Kingdom at the front and the end.
Yes. Yeah. I think we got up at like 6:50 that day, though. This is the day we were all tired and slept
every day is like 20 or 30 minutes later than the day before.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. At 7:57, we were on the boat to Magic Kingdom again. There wasn't a long line for the boat. And while we were on the boat, we met a mom whose son was in the marching band that day for the parade. And there was also a parent sitting near us who was asking us about booking the virtual queues. And she's like, did you get a virtual queue for Tiana's? I couldn't get one. And we told her about Standby Skipper because we found that was really good at getting the virtual queues and the lightning lanes and stuff. And so she was like really appreciative of that. And at 8:12, we arrived in Magic Kingdom. At 8:18, we were tapped into the park. I didn't know what time they actually ended up letting people onto the rides, but we went back to Pooh because it was a walk-on. And if we repeated the Barnstormer, that was also a walk-on. And then repeating the Barnstormer, Fitz loved it. So we found like sometimes knowing what is coming provides a better experience for our children.
Well, now he's got some experience, so.
Yes. At 9:01, we went to the Carousel of Progress. We weren't the only ones in that theater, but there was practically nobody there. Our ride leader was very funny. He was very funny. He was probably the best part of the ride for me that day. He was very funny. And we had lightning lanes for Tron, but Tron was down, so we got an Anytime Experience pass. And we also had lightning lanes for Buzz. Buzz was down, and they told us to come back in 20 minutes. So we went over to the People Mover because that was a walk-on. And by the time we were off People Mover, Buzz was back on. We did Buzz. We had gotten a DAS for Peter Pan during this time. At 10:06, we went on Peter Pan. After Peter Pan, we did Mickey's PhilharMagic. That was a walk-on. And then we got a DAS for Small World. My littler one really wanted to do this again. He really loved Small World. And then we got onto Small World, and the cast member who had checked us into Peter Pan, Keegan, he had checked us into Peter Pan. He was on Small World, and he remembered us. And that was really sweet. Like, they see so many people.
I know. That's amazing.
Yeah. He was like, oh, good to see you again over here. He's like, I love that. After Peter Pan, my husband and I did Space Mountain. I did Space Mountain first. And Sam took the boys on the teacups again and also got them some Mickey pretzels. And I met up with them after they had gotten the pretzels, and while Sam did Space Mountain, we ate the pretzels. And at this point, my husband took off the buttons because they gave us free cheese to go with the pretzels, and my boys don't like cheese, and we were feeling kind of bad. So we took off the buttons. So we were like, we've got enough pixie dust. It's time for somebody else to do that. And at 12-ish, we tapped into our Haunted Mansion lightning lane for this day. While we were making our way through that queue, we did a mobile order for Columbia Harbor House. At 12:21, we ate lunch. I had heard really good things about this. I know I have heard it on the podcast, like the last few episodes, that this has gone downhill for y'all. It wasn't bad, but we weren't blown away by it. And I had heard the upstairs is usually quiet. It was not quiet. It was full up there.
I guess if it's full, it's not quiet, but if it's not full, it's better.
Yes. And meanwhile, while we were eating lunch, we got a DAS for Seven Dwarfs. At 1:15, we did Seven Dwarfs. And then Fitz really loved this after doing it a second time. And then we did
Is that helpful for him to know about himself? Like, if I just try it, then I can kind of...
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think just knowing... I also think he learned, he's been like this with like other things, not rides, but I think he kind of likes that feeling of being scared, but he doesn't recognize that until after.
Okay.
So I think that might have been a factor in that.
And it's a lot of new experiences. Like, I always think it's so funny to go to, a theme park, because it's like a lot of times it's the first time on a plane. It's the first time in a theme park. What is this ride? Why am I dropping? Why is it everything? Why are there people in costumes? Why do some people have fur, costumes? It's a lot to take in.
It is. There's so much happening. We did a DAS for Enchanted Tales with Belle. That was for me. That was really cute. That was really cute. I'm glad we did it. I don't know that I'd do it again, but I'm glad I got a chance to see that.
I mean, as a Beauty and the Beast fan, you gotta.
It's a really cute way. My husband and I were reflecting. It's a really good way to do a character meet and greet. Yeah, I was a little surprised my younger one, Fitz, didn't volunteer to be a character. He usually wants to do stuff like that, but he didn't. They just wanted to watch. So, but it was cute. Once we were done with Belle, Tron was back up. Sam headed to Tron, and meanwhile, we had gotten a DAS for Dumbo, and I took the boys on Dumbo again. They really wanted to do that. And then we were done with Dumbo, and I did Tron. And then this day, the boys really wanted to see the parade. So while I did Tron, this was around 2:15, the boys got a spot right in front of, across from Sleepy Hollow. And this was a great spot. And then they did the waters and sunscreen, and they played some card games while I did Tron. I got off of Tron at like 2:50, and I ran over to Liberty Square to catch up with them. I got there right on time. And while my family was waiting, like the marching band doesn't really go through that area, but they got a little glimpse. So it was nice to see the marching band. And since the person we had met on the boat that day, her son was in it.
Yeah. And you just think a lot of those people have loved ones that are there just to see them do that.
Right. I know. It's so cool. Yeah. So we had great seats for the parade. After the parade, we went to Pirates. I don't remember if we had a lightning lane or a DAS for this. It was a 45-minute posted wait. This still wasn't my oldest favorite, but he did do better knowing what to expect. Mm-hmm. And then we asked him like the second time, why didn't you like it? And he said it just wasn't exciting. And then we got a DAS for Jungle Cruise. And when we were done with Pirates, it wasn't time for Jungle Cruise. So we went to the Swiss Family Tree House and walked through that. By the time we were done, it was time for Jungle Cruise. And I'm glad we did this again. I was thinking I didn't need to do this again. But our second cruise was really good. We had Trey as our skipper, and Trey was great. Our first skipper, we couldn't hear her, and this didn't have to do with like noise of other guests. Like it just was really hard to hear her. Trey was great. You could hear him. He was really animated, really goofy. We all had a great time.
I think this and Kilimanjaro Safari, like you had different experiences the first time versus the second time. It does vary because there's like a human or humans element to it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you got to try it again.
Yeah, me too. And then we, around 4:20 or so, we went back to the Country Bears. 45, we were off Country Bears, and we had gotten a DAS for Haunted Mansion. The boys had really wanted to do that again. So that was our third time doing Haunted Mansion. And they were really cute. As the trip went on, they were like, can we sit together? Can you and Dad sit together? And can we sit together? And we were like, okay, well, if they let you, that's fine. So like on Haunted Mansion, they were really pleased because they got to sit together. And it was really funny. I noticed how attentive the cast members were to that. Like usually the person directing us like where to go, like, oh, you go to lane 4 or whatever. She'd be like, how old are you two? And then the person like checking to make sure you were secured in the ride again, like, how old are you two? They were really attentive to that. And after Haunted Mansion, we took the monorail to the Contemporary because we were cutting it kind of close to our reservation at Steakhouse 71. We were seated right away at Steakhouse 71. And this was a good meal. The steak was good. We liked it there. And then at 7 p.m., we were done and we walked back to the park. That's actually a very short walk. We probably could have made it by walking, but we didn't know. And as soon as we got into the park, we got a spot for the fireworks. Mm-hmm. And we went over to the east side near where the reserve seating for the party is. And that was a much better spot. We could see the fireworks and the projections there. And I had looked up this day, I had reminded myself where the better seating was.
Yes, it's also a good spot for Tinkerbell.
Yes, it is a good spot for Tinkerbell. Oh, and Tinkerbell flew both nights.
Good.
Oh, yeah. And this day the park was open until 11 and the boys wanted to keep going. And it was our last day, so we said sure.
I can't believe their energy. My gosh.
They had so much energy. So we got another DAS for Mine Train. We did Barnstormer first, and we had gotten a Lightning Lane for that, although it didn't have a very long wait. And then we did the DAS for Mine Train. That's really cool at night. We did get delayed in the middle of the ride twice, but it was fine. It's very cool at night. You get some really nice views of the park. And then we did the Speedway one more time. And then Mommy and Daddy said, we are done. They could have kept going. They probably could have stayed till 11, but Mommy and Daddy were done. And we were back at the hotel at 9:50.
That was your last night.
Yeah.
And then the next day was Saturday, February 8th, and you had to make it home.
Yep, that was our departure day. We woke up at around 6:45. We packed up. We left the hotel around 9 o'clock. And then this was really sweet. Helion, the valet, got our car that morning, and we didn't use up all the arcade card. And so we gave it back to him and asked him to give it to another family. And then we drove home. We were home by 8 o'clock.
Yeah. This is such a good example of a first trip. Like, I feel like you just like nailed all the highlights, figured out the right flow for your family. Like, it seems really good. Did it feel really good to you?
It felt really good. Oh, and my oldest cried on our departure date. He didn't want to leave.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, we just had such a good time. I mean, it helped. We did a lot of research. We're planners, my husband and I. I think it helped that we had done a lot of research.
And a lot of research does help, but a lot of people get overly rigid with their plans because they think, well, I've got to stick to it. But the truth is, you knew enough to adjust as you needed.
Yeah, that's how I feel like, and that was our attitude. Like, we're going to plan, but it's also our first trip, so we're going to be really flexible. You know, if the kids don't want to do any rides, that's fine. And if the kids want to do all the rides, if they want to ride the same ride over and over again, like, we're just going, you know, we're going to go with the flow. Yeah, we had a great time.
And you figured it out.
Yeah.
So that's nice. Okay, so some rapid fire questions. Overall feelings about traveling this time of year in terms of weather and crowds?
Excellent. It was great. It really didn't seem busy. We didn't have to wait long for anything. And the weather was really nice. We had no rain. Really, it was really nice time of year to go.
How did you feel about staying at Wilderness Lodge?
Oh, we loved it there. We would go again.
Okay. And the DAS system?
We found the DAS system really easy to use. I mean, we were really worried about my oldest's ability to wait in the line. So my husband got all the rides, like, you know, on the parks we knew are busy. We got the lightning lanes. We got Standby Skipper, and we also had the Touring Plans app. But we mostly just ended up using the DAS system. So that was really nice. I know it seems like kind of luck of the draw if like we'd get that again. So, but it was really helpful.
Yeah, it sounds like it came in really handy. So the lightning lane system in general, which you also use sometimes.
Yeah, that was good. We didn't end up using it a ton. I think it was smart that we bought it for the days we did. It was definitely helpful in Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios. And the only time it was a little like the only day like it might have been nice to have it was Animal Kingdom because there were a lot of rides, or there were the 2 rides my husband and I wanted to do that we didn't think the kids would do. And you know, you can't, if your DAS rider isn't doing it, you can't do that ride.
Are you talking about Flight of Passage, which you did have a single pass lightning lane for?
Yes. Yeah. Or not Flight of Passage, Everest, and then Dinosaur, which wasn't a priority, but we probably would have done it if we had a lightning lane. So
Yeah, and Expedition Everest does have a single rider line. So if people want to just skip multi-pass lightning lane and do, that's an option at least. So that is nice. But you got gifted lightning lane. So
yes, I know. That was incredible.
And then what about the use of standby skipper?
We found that really nice for virtual queues. It's really good at grabbing those virtual queues and getting you an early boarding group. And so that was really nice, especially for Epcot. Getting to do Guardians twice was really nice. Yeah.
Did your family have a favorite park?
Yeah, my husband's favorite park was Hollywood Studios, and the boys definitely loved that park. But afterward, I asked them what their favorite park was, and both the boys said Epcot. They loved Epcot. I said, what did you like about it? And they were like, it was just fun to hang out there and like find the characters and visit the countries. And yeah, I was surprised by that, but they loved Epcot.
That is interesting. Yeah. And lastly, do you have thoughts or plans on going back again?
We are going to go back. We don't have a date nailed down. Probably not again in 2025, but possibly in 2026 or 2027, we'd go back again for sure. Yeah.
Good. Well, that's the ultimate, endorsement is when you're like, let's do that again.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you've had a fantastic time. This was really well planned and done. So I appreciate you taking the time to share on top of all the planning and navigating your family and everything.
Oh, thank you for having me, Shannon.
I hope you enjoyed my conversations with Mary. I just found it delightful to see how good planning gets executed, and this just kind of the delight of first timers at noticing all the details and kind of taking it in. As usually happens, we did continue chatting for the after chat that is up on Patreon right now. That is in both video and audio form. So if you're a patron, please check for that. If you're not a patron, feel free to sign up now and you can listen to it or watch it there. I think that will wrap up this episode of WDW Prep To Go. For more information, you can always check the show notes in your podcast app or head to the website, wdwprepschool.com. Click on podcast at the top, scroll down to episode 449. Until next time, I'll see you on the site.